It was a bitterly cold winter's day in Duckburg. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and snow piled up on the ground in thick, fluffy mounds. Donald Duck, bundled up in a warm sweater, was sitting by the fire with a steaming mug of cocoa, flipping through a large, heavy book. Across the room, his three nephews Huey, Dewey, and Louie sat by the window, their beaks pressed against the cold glass. "I'm bored," sighed Huey. "Me too," grumbled Dewey. "There's nothing to do," Louie groaned. Donald lowered his book and looked at them with a quack of annoyance. "Oh, for goodness sake, boys. You have a whole room full of toys, books, and games. How can you be bored?" "But we want to go outside," whined Huey. "It's too cold," Donald said firmly. "You freeze your tail feathers off." Louie flopped onto the couch. "So what can we do?" Donald thought for a moment, then his eyes twinkled. "Well, as long as we're stuck indoors, I might as well get some work done. And I have just the thing your bedroom needs: new wallpaper." The nephews perked up immediately. "New wallpaper?" Dewey asked. "That's right." Donald beamed, holding up the book he had been flipping through. "It's a wallpaper catalog. You can pick out the pattern you like best." Excited, the nephews gathered around Donald as he placed the heavy book on the coffee table and flipped it open. "Wow, look at all the choices," exclaimed Huey, his eyes wide with excitement. "I like this one." Dee pointed at a pattern featuring sleek, adventurous-looking ships sailing through stormy seas. "No way, this one is better," Huey argued, pointing at another page filled with fast, shiny racing cars. "You're both wrong. Look at this one with the wild animals," Louie said, tapping a page covered in lions, tigers, elephants, and monkeys, and that was where the trouble began. "I want the car wallpaper," Huey declared stubbornly. "Well, I want the ship wallpaper," Dewey shot back. "No way, animals are way cooler," Louie insisted. Back and forth they went, their voices getting louder and more heated. "Cars," Huey shouted. "Ships," Dewey yelled. "Animals." Louie bellowed. Donald groaned and held his head. "Oh, for Pete's sake, stop it, all of you. You're giving me a headache." The boys stopped arguing for a moment and looked at their uncle. "Can't you just pick something we all like?" Huey asked. "No, we can't," grumbled Dewey. "There's no way we'll agree," Louie huffed. Donald sighed and shook his head. "All right, that does it. Since you can't decide, I will choose for you." With that, he picked up the phone and called the wallpaper shop. The nephews exchanged uncertain glances. What if Uncle Donald picked something they didn't like? That afternoon, a delivery truck pulled up outside, and the wallpaper rolls were brought in. The boys eagerly tried to peek at the patterns, but Donald shooed them away. "No peeking," he warned, marching upstairs with the wallpaper and a bucket of paste. "I want it to be a surprise," the nephews groaned. "Aw, come on, Uncle Donald," Huey pleaded. "No, you'll see it when it's done." With that, Donald shut the door to their bedroom and got to work. Inside the room, Donald unrolled the wallpaper and examined his choices. "All right," he muttered to himself, scratching his head. How do I make 3 boys happy when they all want something different? He stood in the middle of the room, staring at the blank walls, deep in thought. Then, suddenly, he snapped his fingers. "I've got it," he said. "I'll give each of them their own wall. And for the 4th wall, they'll never expect us." With a grin, Donald grabbed a roll and got to work. Now, wallpapering is not as easy as it looks. Donald dipped his brush in the paste, slathered it onto the first wall, and carefully pressed the racing car paper onto it. But as he stepped back to admire his work, the paper suddenly peeled off and flopped onto his head, covering him completely. "Black!" he spluttered, flailing around as he struggled to pull it off. He finally freed himself, only to find that the paste had stuck to his feathers, making him look like a molding chicken. GRRR. Donald gritted his teeth. "Fine, I'll just try again." After a bit more struggling, he managed to get the car wallpaper to stay. Then he moved on to the next wall, carefully smoothing the ship wallpaper into place. It was going well until he turned his back and accidentally stepped into the bucket of paste. WAGGGHH. He flailed his arms, trying to pull his foot free, but ended up tripping and falling backward into the half-unrolled wallpaper. The roll wrapped around him like a cocoon, and he rolled across the floor, knocking over the paste bucket in the process. Splat! Paste went flying everywhere on the walls, on the floor, on Donald, and even on the ceiling. Outside, the nephews heard the commotion and exchanged worried looks. "Should we check on him?" Huey whispered. "Maybe he needs help." Dewey suggested. "Not," Louie smirked. "Let's give him a few more minutes. This sounds funny." Inside, Donald was grumbling under his breath as he unwrapped himself from the wallpaper. His sailor hat was askew, and paste dripped from his beak. "This better be worth it," he muttered. With sheer determination, he finished the job, one wall with cars, one with ships, one with animals, and the 4th wall with an unexpected twist. A mix of all 3 patterns cut into crazy shapes and pieced together like a patchwork quilt. Finally, exhausted but triumphant, he stepped back and admired his work. "Perfect," he said proudly. Donald opened the door, and the nephews tumbled in, eager to see the surprise. Their eyes widened. Their beaks dropped open. "Whoa!" Huey gasped. "Awesome!" Dewey exclaimed. "This is incredible!" Louie cheered. Donald grinned. "See, I made sure each of you got your own favorite, and I even made a special wall just for fun." The nephews rushed to inspect their walls, running their hands over the patterns. "I love it," Huey said. "Me too." Dewey agreed. "It's perfect," Louie added. Donald wiped the sweat from his brow. "Phew. That's a relief." Then Louie giggled. "Uncle Donald, you've got wallpaper paste all over you." The nephews burst out laughing as Donald looked down at himself. He was covered in dry paste, scraps of wallpaper, and even a few racing cars stuck to his feathers. Donald sighed, then chuckled. "Well, as long as you like it, it was worth it." And that night, as the nephews drifted off to sleep in their newly decorated room, Donald finally sat down with his mug of cocoa, knowing that despite the mess, it had been a job well done.